October 12, 1492 and onwards, but also you need to know what was going on in Europe before October 12, 1492 in order to understand things today, because you can't understand the day unless you know the history. And the two books that we're going to be focusing on is American Holocaust, which is a pretty devastating book to read. In that we normally tell people, if you're depressed that week, don't read this book. You got to read it because there's a lot of really devastating stuff to find out. Even with myself in preparing for it, this is my original copy, and this is a new one. So I've gone through it several times, and every time I go through the book, you can't help the emotion in dealing with the facts that are presented here. And one of the things I think that is confusing a lot of people is, okay, that's a history, that's in the past, let's move on. It depends on your point of view. If you're one of the original inhabitants of this continent, you can't just say, let's forget about it and let's move on. If you're one of the European descendants of the people who came here after 1492, it's convenient to say, let's move on. But in both cases, whether you're an original inhabitant, so-called indigenous people, we don't know very much about what happened in the last 500 years. And in the case of the European descendants, they don't know very much about what happened in the last 500 years. We've been told from the point when I was a kid, I'm 50 years old now, when I was a kid, I was told about how Columbus was a hero and an explorer, and I didn't, frankly, when I was a kid, I didn't get what was the big deal about Columbus. Because there were people, even when I was a kid, who would say, wait, this guy was not a hero. And I used to think, well, you know, that's pretty courageous to go out into unknown seas and to go out and explore. That's the way I used to look at it. But one of the things that happened along the way was reading books like American Holocaust and a whole bunch of other books, but I think American Holocaust was the most powerful of all the books that I have ever read. Literally, it'll bring you to tears when you find out a lot of stuff that you didn't know. And at first, you don't want to believe all of this. I'm going to be reading sections from the book, you know, and then I'm going to have Itzko Tezcatlipoca right here, and he's going to be reading from another book called Stolen Continents, and he's going to be talking also about a book called another book called The Truth About Columbus. Okay, oh, I'm sorry, that one right there, which is written by a guy named Olin, who also wrote another book called Lies My Teacher Told Me. And in Lies My Teacher Told Me, it's not about lies my teacher told me 50 years ago or 10 years ago. It's about lies that are still in the history books today. And it's a pretty good seller here in the store, surprisingly with teachers, because they have a big conflict, because they know they're still being taught lies to teach it to children. And the guy from Lies My Teacher Told Me has spoken with a lot of teachers, and how do you deal with it when you're not allowed to tell the truth? And that's why he wrote that book, Lies My Teacher Told Me. We've got a few other books that we're going to be talking about in the next 3 hours. But another one is called A Little Matter of Genocide. And this focuses overall in the Western Hemisphere, but it has to do with the genocide committed by the Americans and the Canadians. Because it seems that there's been this idea, okay, well, Columbus killed the Indians, and Cortez killed the Mexicans and Central Americans. But there were a few, you know, wagon trains that were attacked, and a few Indians died along the way. Well, if you call a few indigenous people, it's 10 million human beings that were